You know that tiny hat you put on your dog for a quick laugh? Well, it turns out it's part of a massive, nearly billion-dollar industry. Today, we're going to dive into the surprisingly complex world of pet Halloween costumes to figure out how on earth did we get here? So first things first, what are our pets actually wearing this Halloween? You might be surprised to learn there's a huge difference between what we dream of them wearing and what we actually end up buying. Let's take a look at the data.
All right, let's kick things off with what's actually flying off the shelves. And the results, well, they're a mix of classic, cute, and, food.
According to the National Retail Federation, the undisputed champion when it comes to what we actually buy is the pumpkin. It makes up almost 10% of all sales. Following right behind are two other classics, the hot dog and the bumblebee. I guess when it comes down to it, we just really value comedy and simplicity.
But our online searches, they tell a completely different story. This is where pop culture totally takes over. For dogs, everyone's looking up the Grinch and Ewoks. And for cats, it's pumpkins, lions, and even Super Mario. It just goes to show, our creative ambitions are massive, even if our final purchases end up being a little more practical.
And get this, it's not just about the pet. A full 60% of owners are planning to coordinate their own costumes to match their furry friends. Halloween is officially a full family affair. So all these costumes, from the simple pumpkins to the elaborate Ewoks, they really start to add up. And the amount of money we're spending as a whole is genuinely staggering. Okay, brace yourself for this number. This year, consumers in the US are expected to spend a whopping $860 million just on pet costumes. That is a massive jump from $700 million just last year. This market isn't just growing, it's absolutely exploding. And we're not talking about pocket change either. 1 in every 5 pet owners will spend over $50 on a single costume for their pet. But what's maybe even more surprising is that nearly a third of owners, 32%, admit to spending more on their pet's costume than they do on their own. Yeah, it's pretty clear who the real star of the show is in these households. So who's really driving this trend? Well, it's probably not a huge surprise that it's the younger generations. Millennials and Gen Z are way more likely to buy costumes. This really reflects a bigger cultural shift where pets are seen as true members of the family, especially for folks who might be starting their own human families a little later in life.
With so many of us looking for that perfect, unique outfit, it makes sense that people are turning away from the mass-produced stuff. They want something special. And that's where the creator economy really steps in.
This, of course, brings us to Etsy. It was founded way back in 2005, and it's become the perfect platform for pet owners who want something more than just a standard pumpkin costume. It connects them directly with artists and craftspeople who can create something truly one of a kind. And the difference is pretty clear, right? On one side, you have mass-market costumes, standard sizes, you see them everywhere. But on the other, Etsy offers a custom fit, totally unique designs, and you get to support an independent creator directly. Let's look at a perfect example. This incredible Pennywise the Clown costume comes from an Etsy shop called Fit Frenchie. It's handmade from fleece, but here's the real kicker. The seller asks for your pet's specific measurements to guarantee a perfect fit. This is literally couture for canines. Now, you might think custom work like this would be crazy expensive, but the average price for pet items on Etsy is right around $42. Think about that. For about the same price as a high-end costume from a big box store, you can get something handmade and perfectly tailored just for your pet. Okay, we've talked about all the fun and the finances, but honestly, none of that matters if our pets aren't safe. So let's shift gears and talk about the most important part of this whole conversation: style versus safety. This quote right here, it's the golden rule. A great costume isn't about how cool it looks to us, it's about how it feels to them. A stressed-out pet in a picture-perfect costume is not a success, it's a problem. So here's a simple 4-point safety check every pet owner should do. First, check the material. You want soft, non-toxic fabrics. Second, look for choking hazards. Any small buttons, bells, or dangling parts that can be chewed off are a big no-no. Third, and this is crucial, is mobility. Can they walk, see, and breathe easily? And finally, do a test run. Let them wear it for a few minutes a day before Halloween so they can get used to it. And listen, the dangers go beyond just the costume itself. These numbers are genuinely alarming. 1 in 4 pets has gotten into the Halloween candy. For some of them, that leads to an emergency vet visit with an average bill of $150. Just remember, things like chocolate and the sweetener xylitol can be lethal. Keeping candy out of reach is absolutely critical.
So, after all the money spent, all the searching, and all the safety checks, the big question is still there. Why do we do all this? What's really driving this nearly billion-dollar craze?
Well, this statistic right here is incredibly telling. Almost a third of owners admit they bought the costume primarily for a social media photo. There is no denying that our desire to share our pet's cuteness with the world is a massive, massive driver of this market.
Ultimately, what started out as just a fun little trend has become a pretty powerful symbol. This nearly billion-dollar industry isn't really about the costumes themselves. It's about how deeply we've integrated our pets into our families and into our lives. They aren't just animals we own, they're family members we celebrate with.
Which leaves us with one last question to think about. Is dressing up our pets the ultimate expression of love and family inclusion? Or is it becoming more about our own need for that perfect photo? For the likes. It's definitely something to chew on the next time you see a pug in a pirate costume. Thanks for diving into this with me.